members of the high table, our royal fathers, distinguished delegates, members of the press. Good morning. Mr. Chairman, since the return to democratic rule in 1999, Nigerians' quest for effective democratic governance has been confronted by many challenges, ranging from the integrity of the electoral system to the control and distribution of resources, neglect and decay of national infrastructure, to the precipitation of the highest decline in moral and ethical standards, total breakdown of national security, to the ravaging effects of corruption. Controversies surrounding elections in particular have serious potential to undermine the legitimacy and the stability of our emerging democracy. And without democracy, you cannot talk of good governance, rule of law, equity, fairness, justice, etc. Mr. Chairman, let us remind ourselves of what Mr. President said, to which that socio-economic reforms would achieve little without appropriate people-driven and people-centered political reforms, and that our political arrangement has some identified distortions, defects, and limitations that call for urgent focus and realistic attention. And quote, posterity will judge whether we have reassessed, using his words, refocused, redefined, and redesign our political landscape in a direction that will strengthen the bonds of unity, enhance the process of democratic values that promote good governance and good neighborliness, and open boundless opportunities for all Nigerians to be and feel that they are a part of an evolving new Nigeria. Or we have maintained the status quo ante. It is against this background, Mr. Chairman, that I will be making the following interventions. Permit me, Mr. Chairman, to lend my voice to the issue of rotation or zoning, but doing it with the insight of an operative. The Committee on Power Sharing Reforms on page 18, item 9, recommended that a constitutional provision be made to ensure that the office of the President rotate amongst the 6 geopolitical zones of the country on the basis of equity, justice, and fairness. This recommendation should also be applicable to states and local governments. Mr. Chairman, rotation of the presidency among the 6 geopolitical zones or between North and South as provided by the Committee on Models and Structure of Government does not in any way facilitate the emergence of a person that is competent with proven track records of honesty, integrity, or a visible means of livelihood as provided for by the Committee on Executive on page 41, item 6.4. It is my candid view that political parameters and exigencies within the political parties should always determine the choice of candidates. Mr. Chairman, we have done this before. For example, in 1993, the Social Democratic Party picked Chief MKO Abiola as its flag bearer and Ambassador Kingibe, another Muslim minority from the Northeast, as his vice. At that time, the country was bubbling with the membership of Nigeria into the OIC. In spite of the oddness of the Muslim ticket, Nigerians, for the first time in the history of our nation, voted not for tribe, creed, or region, but for their convictions, affirming their common heritage and unity of purpose. Up to date. Mr. Chairman, sir, even in Taraba State, I happen to have been the chairman of the SDP when Gongola State was created. When Gongola State was still Gongola State. When Taraba State was created, they had to run for their governorship election. And the present governor, Reverend Joel Inyame, was picked as the candidate. And he was asked to pick his vice or his deputy. And he went to a particular senatorial district and picked his deputy. And when he brought his deputy, the people said that this man you brought is another Christian. The people from that particular senatorial district said, this is the man we want as the deputy governor from our locality. So the exigencies and the parameters of the political parties will always sort themselves out. When we begin to script these things, that's when we begin to have problems. Someday, we shall know the truth. I therefore, Mr. Chairman, strongly recommend that we should allow the dynamics of our political system evolve for us. A truly Nigerian president who will be a leader with the exterior of a lion, symbolizing strength, sovereignty, and subtlety, and a lamb's heart, depicting submission to the will of the people, simplicity and sacrifice. It is a combination of these two contradictions that produce great leaders who would lead us to our promised land. Mr. Chairman, I will intervene on the issue of revenue allocation and physical federalism. The committee under conclusions item 363 recommended that a special committee be set up to advise on the exact amount of increase in the derivation percentage, and item 8, which deals with onshore-offshore dichotomy, is mute. Mr. Chairman, this recommendation has just succeeded in heightening the anxiety of the entire nation. I therefore recommend to conference that revenue allocation considerations should be guided by the principles of justice, equity, fairness, national cohesion, and security. But because there has been neglect in the development of non-oil sector, any sudden change of the revenue allocation formula without fundamentally addressing the structural imbalance will not do justice, sufficient justice, to non-oil producing states. However, this conference must, in a similar manner as it was the case in 1994-1995 conference, have the political will and tenacity to do something. And I call upon the Northern leadership, because it was the Northern leadership in the 1994 and 1995 conference that brokered peace and provided a solution to the impasse, and we arrived at the not less than 13% derivation that is applicable today. I once more call on the Northern leadership, who have always been the bastion of the pivot of peace in this nation, to arise to this responsibility and make something happen at this conference. I believe resource control is about development, both human and structural. If that is the case, Mr. Chairman, it should be to seek to vest the exploitation of these resources in capable indigenous hands in order to create local jobs and skills, bring about the much needed transfer of technology, promote local entrepreneurship. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.